Ashes of resistance. The sky above Turinex bled with fire. Once a jewel of the Galactic Alliance, the planet's cities now lay in molten ruin, carved apart by the Kharzek's biomechanical onslaught. The Resistance had made their final stand here, and failed. The last stronghold had fallen at dawn, and with it, the last flicker of coordinated defense. Commander Viren stood on the edge of a shattered balcony in the ruins of the central spire, his once golden armor scorched and cracked. The smell of ash and seared flesh hung in the air like a shroud. He could see the broken remnants of the planetary defense grid, still smoldering from the Kharzek's orbital strikes. There were no more reinforcements, no more escape ships, only the cold certainty of extinction. Behind him, Dr. Lishan moved with practiced urgency through a triage zone set up in the shell of a collapsed council chamber. The Vokari physician's tendrils twitched anxiously as he tried to stabilize the wounded, dozens of them, most already beyond help. His race had once been known for peace and healing. Now he worked only to delay the inevitable. Viren turned and approached the makeshift command table. A dozen alien species surrounded it, each representing a shattered fleet or collapsed sector. Once leaders, now beggars hiding in the rubble of failure. "We lost 5 more sectors last cycle," said Admiral Tal, her insectoid mandibles clicking softly. "Our last communication relays were destroyed. The Kharzek have begun atmospheric seeding on allied worlds. We are no longer being conquered. We are being erased." The room fell into silence. Viren broke it. "We're done," he said flatly. "We cannot win. Not like this." Lishan looked up from his work, despair in his tired, glassy eyes. "Then what do we do, Commander? Die here? Wait for them to finish their sweep?" Viren reached down and pulled a small, damaged data core from beneath the wreckage. He set on the table. The object was old, its markings worn by time and neglect. But the designation on its face still read clearly, SOL, Earth Origin. This was found deep in an abandoned vault beneath Turin's equatorial plateau, Viren explained. A forbidden archive, dating back to the earliest days of galactic expansion. Tal leaned forward. Earth? That was marked extinct over 200 cycles ago. Humanity vanished during their own internal collapse. "That's what we were told," Viren replied, activating the core. The table's hollow projector flickered to life, revealing fragmentary images, war footage, unlike anything they had seen. Primitive humans waging brutal, unrelenting conflict. Trenches, tanks, orbital bombardments, and fire raining from the skies. Explosions that turned continents to glass. "These aren't the images of extinction," Viren said, voice grim. "They're the markings of a species that thrives in war. Who mastered it? No, embodied it. And then vanished." He zoomed in on one video. A squad of human soldiers, bloodied and battered, charging an enemy position despite overwhelming odds. No shields, no advanced tech, just sheer willpower. Lishan watched, eyes wide. "They should have died, but they didn't," Viren said. "They don't stop. They don't know how to stop." Tal recoiled slightly. "You would summon them? These monsters? You think they would save us?" "I think they might be the only ones who can." A long silence followed. Then one voice, small and soft, broke the tension. A comms officer limping into the room, face pale and eyes wide. "Commander, we're receiving a signal. From the Sol system. A coded ping, but the signature matches." Everyone turned. "You mean," Viren started. "They're alive," the officer confirmed, trembling. "Humanity still exists." The chamber erupted into a frenzy of discussion. Some shouted in fear, others in disbelief. A few, the desperate ones, in hope. Viren raised his hand. "Enough. We send a diplomatic probe. We find them. We ask for aid." Tal hissed. "And if they are worse than the Kharzek?" Viren stared at the flickering image of human soldiers charging into fire and death without hesitation. "Then let them be our devils," he said, "because right now we don't need angels." Dr. Lishan looked out through the shattered wall at the burning world beyond. "If there is even a spark of that fire left," he whispered, "it may be enough to light the galaxy again." Viren stepped to the communications console, hands trembling as he authorized the transmission. The message was simple: a plea, a beacon, and a warning. To the last known coordinates of Earth, to any who remain, the galaxy burns. The war is lost. We ask not for mercy. We ask for the one thing we were never taught to wield: vengeance. Come, if you still remember war. The transmission vanished into the void, and in the silent aftermath, every being in the room felt it, a shift in the air, as if the universe itself held its breath. Contact with the forgotten. The shuttle trembled as it entered the Sol system. Commander Viren sat rigid in his seat, his claws gripping the armrests. Across from him, Dr. Lishan floated slightly in the low gravity, his tendrils wrapped protectively around a datapad. The interior of the diplomatic envoy vessel was silent. No idle chatter, no reassurances. Every member of the crew felt the weight of history pressing down. It had taken weeks to reach the quarantine zone. Sol had been marked dark space by galactic authorities for over 2 centuries. No probes had returned. No communications penetrated. The myth of Earth, humanity's cradle, was just that, a myth. Until now, approaching planetary orbit, the pilot announced, picking up something impossible. Viren rose and moved to the main viewing port. His breath caught. Earth floated below them. Not the shattered husk he'd feared, but a heavily fortified world brimming with satellites, orbital structures, and defensive rings. Entire asteroid belts had been carved into automated defense arrays. Gigantic railgun platforms hovered in geostationary orbit. Even from space, Viren could sense it. Earth had not died. It had armored itself. Energy signatures, the pilot said. Multiple. Target locks. Alarms blared. A wall of red lights danced across the cockpit. Viren pressed a button on his console. This is Commander Viren of the Galactic Resistance. We come unarmed. We seek audience. A voice cut through their comms system like steel through silk. Unidentified vessel. Power down all systems immediately. You are in restricted territory. Move another meter, and you will be erased. It was calm. Human. Female. Viren obeyed. Systems down, the pilot confirmed. We're dead in space. A second voice followed. Male, mechanical. Escort drones inbound. Do not resist. Within moments, dozens of black, insectoid drones swarmed the envoy. They latched onto the hull like parasites, forcing the ship into controlled descent. Viren didn't argue. Earth wasn't welcoming them. It was deciding if they were worth keeping alive. They were taken to a facility hidden within the Rocky Mountains, or what had once been. Now, it was a mountain-sized fortress of steel and plasma shielding. Towers bristled with weaponry. The air was thick with the hum of machines. Viren and Lishan were escorted through massive blast doors by 6 armored humans. Their exosuits were matte black, with no insignia. Cold visors hid their eyes. They moved like predators. The aliens were led into a vast, dark hall. At its center stood a woman in uniform, tall, broad-shouldered, and absolutely still. General Adira Kane. She did not greet them, did not smile. She simply spoke. You came here because you're losing. Viren straightened. We came here because we have lost, and because once your kind was feared. You hope we'd fight your war for you? She interrupted, eyes hard. No, Viren replied, meeting her gaze. We hoped you'd remember how. A tense pause. General Kane looked to the massive screen behind her. It flickered to life, displaying footage of Kharzek atrocities. Planets consumed. Species harvested. Children liquefied in biovats. I've seen your enemy, she said quietly. We've known of them longer than you realize. That's why we sealed our system. Why we turned inward. To prepare. Lishan stepped forward. Then you knew? And let the galaxy burn. Kane turned slowly. We watched. We studied. We rebuilt. Because the last time we fought alongside your kind, you left us to die. Your council called our methods barbaric. Your fleets abandoned us at Tel Varnis. We remember. Viren bowed his head. Then let us say what we came to say clearly. We don't ask for your mercy. We ask for your rage. Silence. Then Kane nodded to a side chamber. You'll speak to someone else now. In the next room, a younger human waited. Corporal Rafe, lean and quiet, his armor lacking the rank and scars of Kane's generation. He offered them water, food, shelter, but his voice remained firm. "I'm part of Earth's Forward Recon Division," he explained. "We've been watching the galaxy through dark space relays. The Kharzek were expected." "You expected them?" Lishan asked. Rafe nodded. "We studied them when they first emerged beyond the fringe. They think they adapt faster than any species." "That's true, except for one." Viren leaned forward. "Humans." Rafe smiled just barely. "We're not the strongest, not the smartest, not the fastest, but we learn. We lose, then we come back." "Relentless," Viren whispered. "That's one word for it." Lishan hesitated. "Will your people fight?" Rafe stood and walked to a console. He tapped a key. On a nearby wall, a red alert flared. Dozens of military divisions, infantry, orbital fleets, dreadnought squadrons were coming online. "Fight!" Rafe echoed. "We've been waiting." The screen zoomed in on an incoming human fleet preparing for departure. Black ships, bristling with weaponry, moved like wolves in formation. "General Kane has authorized deployment," Rafe said. "Earth is going to war." Viren exhaled slowly, the tension leaving his body for the first time in months. "What will you need from us?" Rafe turned to him with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Stay out of our way." Fire and fury unleashed. The planet Borak 7 was dead before the first human ship entered orbit. Once a thriving resistance colony world, its lush forests and sapphire oceans had been reduced to writhing biomass. Kharzek infestation sprawled across the surface like a fungal nightmare. Towering hive spires churned black smoke into the atmosphere. Swarms of biomechanical drones circled the skies. The planet screamed in silence. But silence didn't last long. The first blast came from high orbit, a kinetic rod strike. A solid tungsten spear the size of a cargo shuttle punched through a Kharzek spire, vaporizing it in a pillar of fire. No warning, no preamble. Then the sky opened. The Earth Assault Fleet, designation EF-01, dropped from orbit in perfect formation, wedge-shaped dreadnoughts, drone carriers, and missile barges screaming toward the surface in controlled fury. Dozens of smaller gunships fanned out, trailing contrails of fire. Alongside them descended jet-black drop pods, hundreds of them, each carrying a single armored human soldier. Commander Viren stood aboard the orbiting Resistance observation cruiser, eyes wide. "They're not forming a line," he noted. "No perimeter, no attempt at ground control. They're not here to hold the ground," Dr. Lishan said beside him. "They're here to erase the enemy." On the ground, the drop pods slammed into the earth like meteorites. Their armored doors blasted outward, and human soldiers emerged, dark, hulking figures in adaptive exosuits, bristling with advanced weaponry. Among them strode Sergeant Avelini Cross, her visor glowing crimson. Her voice crackled through squad comms. "Echo teams, scatter and burn. Target hive centers and cortical nodes. No prisoners." The Kharzek responded immediately, their shrieks rising into the air like static screams. Swarms of razor-limbed drones launched from nearby hills, converging on the human units with horrifying speed. Cross didn't flinch. Now, human soldiers raised their weapons. Plasma railguns barked. Smart targeting drones spun through the air, intercepting enemy flyers. Micromissiles screamed across the field, detonating with precision. But it wasn't the tech that stunned the watching aliens. It was how the humans moved. Viren watched the live feed in awe. "They're adapting mid-battle. They're learning," Lishan whispered. "Every shot, every maneuver, they're changing. Faster than the Kharzek can." One squad deployed nanite fog that ate through Kharzek armor like acid. Another used electromagnetic pulse bows, firing silent arcs that fried biomechanical brains. A third, cornered by a collapsing hive wall, overloaded their power cores, detonating in place. All dead, all accounted for. And yet, reinforcements kept dropping from orbit like a storm. Sergeant Cross led a breach team into a central hive node, a pulsating tower of bone and steel. The interior was a nightmare of writhing tendrils and living metal. "Target," Cortex Spire, she said, pointing ahead. Heat signature detected, one soldier replied. It's alive. I don't care. Burn it. They unleashed flamethrowers enhanced with white phosphorus compounds. The living structure howled, walls folding inward as it tried to protect its brain core. But the humans advanced without hesitation, like machines of meat and fury. Back in orbit, Viren watched an incoming wave of Kharzek reinforcements, a planetary fleet of hive ships emerging from subspace. They're going to counter-assault, he said. No, Lishan murmured, pointing to a series of blinking markers on the hollow table. Look, before the Kharzek ships could descend, a dozen human stealth craft decloaked beneath them. Each launched a quantum imploder, gravity bombs that didn't explode but collapsed. One by one, the hive ships folded inward and vanished into singularities. Viren stared, stunned. That wasn't warfare. That was execution. Hours later, the battlefield was silent. Human soldiers stood amidst burning ruins. Not a single Kharzek structure remained intact. No prisoners were taken. No calls for surrender were answered. The entire infestation had been scrubbed clean with clinical precision. A signal came through from the surface. It was Sergeant Cross. Mission complete. All hive nodes destroyed. Remaining samples secured for analysis. Casualties, 12%. Kharzek casualties, 100%. She paused. Recommend tactical resettlement of site. We will remain for mop-up. Understood. Came the reply from General Kane aboard the flagship Verity. Maintain perimeter. Forward your battle data. As the channel closed, Lishan slumped back into his chair. I saw our fleets fail for years, he said. And they did in 2 hours what we couldn't do in 2 decades. Viren nodded. Because they don't wage war for survival. They wage war to end it. He turned toward the star map, now updated with a red-slashed symbol over Borak 7, the mark of human conquest. It's not just a new front, he said. It's a new war. Relentless and rising. The war changed after Borak 7. The Kharzek, once an unstoppable wave sweeping across the galaxy, had been halted, not by diplomacy, not by superior technology, but by force and something the Resistance had forgotten long ago, the will to destroy. Humanity's involvement was no longer a whisper of hope, but a thunderclap felt across star systems. The Resistance High Command, what remained of it, convened aboard the Sky Bastion, a floating command center rebuilt with Earth's assistance. Holograms of worlds burned, liberated, or contested hovered above the central chamber. For the first time in cycles, green lights outnumbered red. Commander Viren stood in silence beside General Adira Kane. Across the chamber, alien representatives from dozens of species watched the latest battle footage from Verta Prime, another reclaimed world. Human drop units deployed through atmospheric firestorms. Black-armored infantry swept through bunkers. Kharzek warbees crumbled under heavy plasma fire and sonic blades. The footage ended with a crimson Earth emblem glowing over the smoldering landscape. Adira Kane's voice echoed through the room. We are no longer holding ground. We are advancing. A Solari senator leaned forward. And at what cost, General? Your soldiers show no hesitation, no mercy. They fight like monsters. Kane finished coldly. The senator hesitated. I meant no offense. You should. You're not wrong. Murmurs spread. Kane stepped down from the dais and circled the table. When your people fled, we fortified. When you negotiated, we adapted. When you begged for surrender, we sharpened our knives. The Kharzek aren't afraid of peacekeepers. They're afraid of something that bites back harder than they do. That's what we are. Dr. Lishan, seated beside Viren, spoke gently. But we cannot become like them. Kane stopped walking. Her tone softened slightly. We aren't like them, but we don't fight against evil by being good. We fight by surviving. That's what makes humans different. We don't break. We don't submit. When we lose, she looked around, eyes like steel, we come back angrier. She turned toward the star map and highlighted a massive red marker moving toward the center of the galaxy. The Kharzek know we're a threat now. They've deployed their final gambit. A hive-mind world ship. A living planet. and it's headed for Earth. Gasps followed. Viren stepped forward. That ship, it's the size of the moon. We don't have the numbers to stop it. Kane didn't blink. No, but we have the will. Operation Final Ember launched 1 week later. The Resistance contributed what they could: scout ships, decoy fleets, and supply drones. But it was Earth's armada that led the charge, dark, silent, and fast. Fleets of Verity-class dreadnoughts, stealth frigates, and kinetic missile barges formed a spear point aimed at the heart of the Hive world. Inside Earth's flagship, General Kane prepared her strike teams. Sergeant Avellini Cross stood at the front of her fire team, loading a heavy gravity rifle. "You sure about this, General?" she asked. "I'll lead the boarding myself," Kane said. "This ends now." "Figured you'd say that," Cross replied. "Then we'll follow you in." The mission was simple, brutal, and suicidal. Infiltrate the Hive world. Reach the cerebral core. Detonate a singularity charge. Escape was optional. The final assault began with a solar veil approach, using the light of a nearby star to mask the fleet's entrance. Earth's warships burst from the glare, catching the Kharzek off guard. Railguns shattered Hive tendrils in orbit. Carrier swarms were neutralized before they could deploy. Boarding pods launched in synchronized waves, burrowing into the living hull of the Hive world like bullets through flesh. Inside, the humans fought their way through labyrinthine corridors of pulsing, wet metal. Acidic blood sprayed with every kill. Cross's team cleared the path, layer by layer, sacrificing soldiers by the dozen just to breach a single membrane. The Hive reacted, adapting, sealing off routes, evolving new threats in real time. But it wasn't fast enough. Humans were faster. In the heart of the Hive, beneath layers of bone and fiber, Kane planted the charge beside the pulsating cortex. It throbbed like a massive, beating heart. Her comm crackled. Cross's voice came through. "We've cleared extraction route. Shuttle's inbound. Let's go." Kane looked at the core. "No," she said. "The timer's too short. It needs manual detonation." A pause. Then Cross again. "We'll come get you." "That's an order, Sergeant." "Evacuate." Kane turned off her comm, sat against the charge, pulled a silver token from her pocket, Earth's emblem, a memory of a home that once watched the galaxy burn. She smiled. Then she pressed the trigger. The explosion didn't just destroy the Hive world. It collapsed its psychic link. Across the galaxy, Kharzek units froze, staggered, screamed, and dropped lifeless, severed from the mind that bound them. On the sky bastion, silence reigned. Then a single voice confirmed detonation. Hive signal gone. Cheers erupted. Viren wept silently. Lishan knelt to the floor, overcome. Entire sectors flickered from red to green. The war was over. Weeks later, a statue was unveiled in Earth's orbital memorial garden. General Adira Kane, cast in steel, stood with rifle in hand and her gaze set toward the stars. Below her, etched in every known language, were her final recorded words. "We weren't saviors. We were the storm, and storms don't ask for permission." Viren stood in silence beneath the statue. Lishan approached. "So this is what salvation looks like." Viren nodded. "Not clean, not beautiful, but unstoppable." Above them, new fleets launched, mixed crews of humans and aliens, no longer strangers. The galaxy was changed forever, not because humans arrived, but because relentless humans emerged.